Hello hollows and welcome to another video. First of all, if you've got any ideas for any more topical videos, please let me know down in the comments below, because I really love doing these topical videos, but I am kind of running out of things to talk about. So if you've got any suggestions and videos you would like to see a topical video like this made about, then please let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, this video is about what is going to come after Elden Ring. And what I mean by this is, if you look at the Dark Souls franchise, you can see the logical step that was made, in my opinion, from Dark Souls 3 to Elden Ring. Okay, Elden Ring, even though it has flaws in my personal opinion, it is still an evolution of Dark Souls. However, in my personal opinion, you couldn't just do an Elden Ring 2, because it would be very samey and repetitive. Elden Ring is a massive game with loads of different distinct areas and settings in it. So if you just did an Elden Ring 2 that was another open world with more bosses and more, what are they called? Legacy dungeons, people are calling them nowadays for some reason, even though I just call them Dark Souls levels. Even, if you just had another game that was just more of that, it would be... I don't think it would do very well, and I don't think people would really like it, because it would just be more of the same. And I think, especially because Elden Ring, very much in my opinion, probably has the most refined and tight mechanics of any Souls game, in my opinion, that I don't really see them being able to polish it up anymore and make it any more tighter, because it's just the best it can be, in my personal opinion. And therefore, if you did an Elden Ring 2 in the same engine, like this, with those same kind of tight mechanics, because anything different, in my opinion, would just be inferior, then I don't think it would just do what people think, oh, this is just more of the same, this is just getting repetitive now. So what would therefore be the next step moving forward? So if you've got Dark Souls 3, and Elden Ring is very much an evolution of Dark Souls 3, what would be the evolution of Elden Ring? That's the thing. What would it be? Would it be... I'm trying to think. Imagine if instead of an open world that you can ride on a horse, instead the world is very much more tightly compacted, with more locations filling everywhere, instead of just massive expanses of land between the main locations of Elden Ring. What if the world was just more tightly compacted together, so it wasn't as big, maybe still very big, but wasn't as big, but instead the locations were much more tightly compacted together, so you had a bit more of a sense of verticality that we saw in Dark Souls 1, for example. That would be something which I think could be a nice evolution of Elden Ring. And even then, you still could have maybe some areas between the different locations, but instead of having a Dark Souls Legacy dungeon, you have the Dark Souls Legacy dungeon as like almost the center, but then with some other more city areas around it which aren't as hostile. Maybe you still can ride around them on a horse, but they don't feel as hostile, so it still is part of the open world, instead of it just being very much, this is the Legacy dungeon, this is the open world section. I think that could be something that they could potentially do. But then again, what if we're not going to get an evolution of that? Because a part of me thinks Elden Ring is probably, if you think about Hidetaka Miyazaki, he has very much been wanting to make this kind of epic fantasy game. And I think Elden Ring, a part of me thinks maybe to him, Elden Ring is like the culmination of his entire time working in the dark fantasy genre. Because Elden Ring very much is like, it's got a bit of everything. It's got a bit of Dark Souls, it's got a bit of Sekiro, got a bit of Bloodborne in there. You've got a lot of everything in there, really. And I think Elden Ring, a part of me just thinks that is the definitive Hidetaka Miyazaki Souls-like game. That's, his end game, essentially. Especially when you've got all the DLCs and expansions in there, making that game even bigger and even more filled with content. That game's got so many bosses, so many different areas that are very well designed, even though some parts aren't, but a lot of it is very well designed. So maybe Elden Ring is the definitive Hidetaka Miyazaki vision, and we're not going to get another Souls-like game from him. I mean, look at it, they've done Armored Core 6 now. What's going to come after, really? if we get a Bloodborne 2, people have been asking for a Bloodborne 2. But I think if we get a Bloodborne 2, it's just going to be similar to what we've already got. And Hidetaka Miyazaki doesn't really like to look back, does he? And even looking forward, let's say he makes Bloodborne 2 and it's even more big and it's even more epic than Bloodborne, like, it's still just going to be more of the same. That's the thing. Now, just for the record, I want more of the same. I have no issue getting more. I don't have an issue with the Dark Souls 4, 5 and 6 if they made them. I am that invested in the lore, the world, the gameplay and everything. In my opinion, it's just exactly what I want in a video game. So I want more of that. You know, I'm perfectly fine with getting more of it. But I'm trying to think from FromSoftware's perspective, they probably don't just want to do more of the same. Especially when you're a company that has got the reputation that FromSoftware has got now. You don't want to bring out a game and have it be seen as being more of the same, because FromSoftware very much is seen as, you know, masters of the fantasy genre, you could say, and every game they come out with is a little bit different, but still what we all want and what people like. So I think that's probably the reason why they left the Dark Souls series, because it was starting to become more of the same. You know, I do think Dark Souls 1, 2 and 3 each have their own distinct mechanics and distinct personality that makes them very separate from each other. But there's no arguing that they are still they are definitely sequels, and they're definitely the same series, you know? So I think they probably would want to do something different. But then that's the thing, what would be something different? I said that idea about having more locations, more compacted together, tightly compacted, as opposed to being so separated with massive open world expanses in between. But the thing is, that kind of open world style where you can explore the world for hours and hours, that's what does really well nowadays. People really like that open world style, especially with crafting systems and things that, you know, FromSoftware implements into Elden Ring, which I really don't like. I've always hated crafting systems, but that is still something that's very trendy nowadays, and it's probably part of the reason why Elden Ring did very well, is that open world and that crafting system that they added in, which is very trendy nowadays. So again, that's the thing, I just cannot personally picture in my head an Elden Ring 2 without it being just more of what we've already had. And FromSoftware don't like doing that, especially Hidetaka Miyazaki. Now, Bandai Namco very well might say, we don't care, we want an Elden Ring 2, even if it's your B team doing it, and we might get an Elden Ring 2, which is kind of like Dark Souls 2. But I don't know. Is that what we're really going to get? I don't really have an answer to this, honestly. That's the thing, because I just cannot picture a successor to Elden Ring in my head, personally. I really can't. And please let me know down in the comments below, if you can, what you think a successor to Elden Ring would be, the next step in FromSoftware's progression as a developer. So think about it, you got Demon Souls as, like, you know, the very first primitive entry. Dark Souls expanded on it more. Dark Souls 2 definitely still took some steps forwards, even if it did take a few steps back. And I'd say Dark Souls 3 is very similar. It took some steps forwards and it took some steps back. You got Bloodborne as well, really innovating on the genre and introducing some new mechanics. Sekiro is very similar. And I think all of these games are very much steps on FromSoftware's journey leading to Elden Ring, which is very much a culmination of all of the stuff that we saw before. So what would really come after? That's the thing. I just cannot. Honestly, I started making this video thinking, okay, while I'm talking, I'll probably be able to think of something that would come after Elden Ring. And I just can't. That's the difficult thing. I just really cannot picture something coming after it. And I really want you guys to let me know down below if you can. I mean, they did a Japanese Souls with Sekiro, kind of in a way. It does have some Souls-like mechanics. We had a gothic horror / Lovecraftian Souls with Bloodborne. Would they maybe do, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some kind of, I don't know, older style history, some different location that we could set Souls in, maybe. next that would be similar to that kind of Bloodborne Sekiro style, where it's got some Souls elements but set in a different location. But then it probably would still be seen as being inferior to Elden Ring, because Elden Ring is definitely bigger and more ambitious than Bloodborne and Sekiro, even if it is weaker than those games in some aspects. I think it's still bigger and more ambitious. You definitely can't, fault it for that. So anyway, please let me know down in the comments below what you think could be the next step forward, and I will probably make a successor to this video discussing some of your opinions and what your ideas are that the next Elden Ring game or the next FromSoftware fantasy game could be. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, maybe share this video with anything I feel it's good of. Thank you again for watching. This is Saul signing out. Have a good one.